Jacque, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy you're here today.
Hi, Dallas. Yeah, I'm really excited. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, before we dive in, I'd love to just get a sense from you about how things are going. This episode will air in the beginning of 2022, but as we record it, we're sliding into the end of the year. So, how have things been for you this year?
Um, they have been pretty good. I'm starting to feel a little more solid
Mhm.
in my business. I'm feeling like I've created a foundation and things are like it's like I have all the puzzle pieces now,
Yeah.
where before things were just kind of I was taking pieces from the wrong puzzles to try and put together, if that
Right.
makes sense. Right?
Completely. That's so funny you say that because that's actually an analogy I've used before where at my
Oh,
my grandma used to have a big like a Tupperware basket with every puzzle that she's ever had just thrown in there is as one big pile of puzzle pieces, and I
oh
would
my
try to
gosh.
fit pieces together and that never really worked.
No. Oh my gosh, that sounds like a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Or just a cruel game to play, right? Okay, so I'd love to hear a little bit tell our listeners about your business and who it is you serve.
I serve newer writers that are writing their novels or their memoirs. Um, and I started out as just doing development editing, which is the story part, and found that that coaching really got better results for them.
Yeah,
And so I do development editing through coaching with them, and it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than sitting by myself with a manuscript. So
completely.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Jacque, let's turn your video off and see if we can get a better audio connection. Great, let's try that. Test one,
Okay.
two. Yeah, just like
Hello.
tell me a sentence.
This is a sentence.
Oh yeah. Okay, great. That's so much
Okay.
better. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's a little awkward, but it's a lot better audio, so we'll
Yeah.
go with that.
Okay.
Okay, so you just shared who you help. Okay, I know what I'm going to say. It makes a lot of sense to me, Jacque, that writers also need coaching as they go through the process of writing. What an experience it is for them to like push themselves, but also explore themselves as they get their stories on the page. So I'm really fascinated with your business.
It's so much fun just watching them. Like we all kind of have blinders on,
Yeah,
right? And so to help them take those off and I get to see their faces this time instead of just like, here you go. They're like,
right.
oh my gosh, I can take it in this direction, or I
Yeah,
can, I really had this idea, but I couldn't get it to fit, and now I can. And
right.
that's just really exciting to see.
That's really cool. Yeah. Yeah, and also just the all of the internal work and personal growth that happens through the book writing process.
Mhm.
So that's really cool. All right, so let's talk about you. I'd love to know what you want to take away from our conversation today.
I would like uh, some clarity
Hmm.
and a pretty solid plan on how to optimize my limited time,
Yeah.
um, to so that I can both serve clients and work on my business and grow it at the same time.
Yeah. So fill our listeners in because you have clients that you work with, but you have other responsibilities in your life outside of running your business. So paint the picture for us so we understand how much time we're dealing with here.
Yeah, so I usually spend 4 days or so working on my business and working with clients.
Okay.
Um, the other time, I am a mom,
Hmm.
and my son is like a huge priority in my life,
Yeah.
and we do a lot of things together. And I want to make sure that I'm there for him all the time,
Yep.
or as much as I can.
Yes. Right.
um, and we are amateur athletes. We
Oh,
do
I
a lot
didn't
of mountain
know
biking.
that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and we ride together, and we race every year. Again, it's all amateur. It's not anything that
Mhm.
but it's a passion of ours as a family. And we
Yeah.
do it as a family. And so those are the things that take a lot of my time.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd like to kind of keep those in my
Yes.
life.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? What are we
Yes,
doing here? Running our business so
exactly.
that we can have all this freedom, and then yeah, it
Yes,
doesn't
yes,
happen.
that's why that's one reason why I want to own my own business, is for that
Yep.
flexibility, So it's kind of
Yep.
like you said, that's the point.
Yeah, that's the point. Okay. So let me ask you this question. How do you feel, if at all, that you're not optimizing the time you have to spend on your business?
I feel like I end up spending a lot of like back office time,
Mm,
where it either takes forever to see results,
yeah.
or I feel like I don't really see results. So like I and a lot of it I think comes from the past, that I've done those things before, where I've spent hours and hours and hours working on something only to have nothing come of it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, like creating a website, sometimes I wonder even why I even have it.
Totally. Right?
No, and it's like, well, nobody looks at it, so why did I even bother?
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like I do a lot of that kind of stuff,
Yes. Okay.
right?
Tell me if you relate to this. I could be totally projecting here. All right. So, um, I can remember, and maybe I still fall into it now as I'm thinking out loud. There can be times in my business where I unconsciously fall into busy work because
Mhm.
it's my work hours, so I know I'm supposed to be working, and maybe I'm not quite up for doing the scary work of putting myself out there, so I can easily occupy my time
Mhm.
on things that don't actually move the needle. Is there for you any resistance or hiding that's going on?
Yeah, I would say so. I've actually been thinking about that for
Yeah.
a couple of days. Yeah, things like outreach, like list building. Um, I know you have that DM strategy, which is awesome, but for whatever reason, I'm like, well, they're just, how I don't know how to talk to them. I don't know how to,
Totally. Yeah.
so I probably need to, send out another email for no reason.
I know, right? Or I can remember for years, and this was probably my money fears coming through too, but I've been in business 20 years, so I've got a lot of background in resistance and busy work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I used to every day, I'd start my workday by logging into wellsfargo.com and balancing my checkbook, where the day before no money was made and no money was spent, but I would go through those motions.
Mhm.
Um, and I think as I share, and I just want to see if you relate, it gave me a perceived sense of control during a time when I really needed that.
Mhm.
And yet it slowed down my progress at the
Yeah,
same time. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Does that ring true for you at all, Jackie, or is that a me thing? It's okay if it is a me thing.
No, I don't think it's just a you thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that I have like a one thing like that,
Uh-huh.
but I have like a lot of little things like that depending on my mood, which is no way to run a business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I definitely feel that it's busy work,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And one of the dangers of the busy work, because there are times when the busy work has to happen, right?
Yeah,
But if it's
yeah.
all busy work, it can eat away at our confidence because then the story becomes, wait a second, I've been at this for how long? And
Mhm.
why don't I see bigger results? But when we look at the actions, they weren't result producing actions.
Right.
Right. So what I hear you saying is you want to make sure that you're spending as much time as possible on those result producing actions.
Yes.
Okay.
And I feel like sometimes they're hard to determine,
Yeah,
right?
completely. Especially if you've never done them before, because we could probably make a strong case that anything could produce results. Right.
Right.
But what's the quickest, most efficient path forward?
Right.
Okay. So here's what I think we should try. I want to walk you through a process to help you so that you have a schedule moving forward for how you'll spend your time, but also you have an understanding of the process so that when your goal or priority shifts, you can apply the process again to determine where to spend your time as things evolve and shift. Does that sound good?
That sounds amazing.
Okay, great. So the first thing I want to do is identify a goal. Maybe we'll think about this, Jacque, in terms of quarters. So a goal you
Okay.
have for your business in the next 90 days.
Um, well, I know I have a goal for first quarter next year.
Great, let's use that. That's perfect.
Um, I have gotten a lot of encouragement from you and from the community and other people to start a small group. So I
Mhm.
would like to start a small development group.
Great. What constitutes small?
Um, probably 4 writers and
Okay,
myself.
yeah, great. So the Q1 goal is 4 writers in your small group.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So that now, along with your values, right? We had a big values conversation at the retreat, but this goal and your values, those things together become the filter through which we decide how to spend your business time.
Okay.
Okay. So, what assets do you need in place in order to accomplish the goal of your first power group, really, right? A small group of 4 writers.
Mhm. So what assets like
I can give you an example.
yes, please.
Yeah. So let's pretend that my goal is to I want to launch my course for the second time. An
Mhm.
asset I need to fill the course is I need people to sell the course to. So I need a mailing list of some sort.
Okay.
Right. So an asset, I also need room on my calendar to deliver the course once it fills. Maybe I need an admin person on my team to manage all of the customer service. So we're just thinking about like, what do I need to have in place in order for this goal to happen?
Okay. Okay. Well, I definitely need room on my calendar.
Yep.
Um, I mean that's a big one. I have realized that things are not. I've been too lenient
Yeah.
in meetings. So one of my goals for January 1 is to have something in place and to actually already have that space available, even if the group hasn't started yet.
Great.
Um,
Yes. And when you
um,
say you've been lenient in meetings, I want to make sure I understand. I take that to mean that your client sessions can often run over.
they were for a while. I've actually pretty proud of myself that I've gotten to where they don't
Oh,
as
good.
often.
Yeah.
Now and then they still do.
Yeah.
But I've also gotten lenient in, you know, let's say, like, you like to use Bam Bam, right? So Bam Bam every Monday at 2 o'clock, it was our set meeting, but this week he can't, so we're going to move it to Wednesday, and then the next week he can't, so we're going to move it to 4 o'clock.
Yep.
And and I mean, just for the fact that I'm not going to be able to do that anymore,
Mm-hmm.
I've started reeling that in.
Great. Yes.
So
And that can be a tricky one because we all have days where something unexpected happens and we have to move our calendar around.
yeah,
So it can't be this rock solid boundary that can reasonably be held 100% of the time, which then
right.
just makes it like, so what is the boundary then, right? But it sounds like you're thinking through that and you're working that out.
Yeah, I want to be able to be flexible for them. Just, like you say, things come up.
Yeah.
But I also need to make sure that I can't, like, shove somebody else out of the way for them.
Yep. And yes, completely. I want to offer this. Here's the first suggestion I want to offer, and then we'll come back to the exercise. This used to work really well for me back in my former life when I coached actors, because actors, they will get a last minute audition. And the whole point, the goal of our work together was to bring them more auditions. So it felt completely incongruent now. Like, congratulations, we're accomplishing our goal. And you're being punished because you make our session. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I created in my calendar what I called a slush fund, right? So a slush fund is, my understanding anyhow, is it's like an envelope of extra cash laying around for a rainy day or just in case. So on my calendar, I coached 4 days a week. On 2 of the days, I had slush fund time from like 11 to 12:30. It was scheduled, unscheduled time, reserved for when a client had to reschedule.
I like that.
And then if no one had to reschedule, great. I've got this slush fund time that I can dedicate to my marketing. So it didn't turn into, okay, well, no one rescheduled, so what am I going to do? Let me go log into Wells Fargo again. Right. I had a backup plan, but that eliminated so much stress for me. And I will say also stress for my clients. So instead of, shoot, I can't make it tomorrow, how can we reschedule? It was really clear, right? I can't make it tomorrow. Okay, great. That means we can move you to Thursday at 2 p.m.
That's a great idea. That really feels, because then you're not feeling like you're wasting time either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because and even if you have to reschedule it and you schedule it in that slush fund, well, now the original appointment is your marketing time.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's just that room for things to swap. Precisely.
Yeah.
It was really, really, really helpful. And also just eliminating that step of back and forth. Let's try to find a time. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about a Q1 goal, which is launching your first power group. One of the things that needs to be in place in order for that to happen is room on your calendar. Are there any other assets that need to be in place?
I feel like I need at least a few more people on my email list. I am doing client surge. I was doing like a drip or a flow. But the more I look at what my goals are for next year and the timelines, I've decided to go ahead and move that up and do more of a surge than a flow.
Okay.
So probably instead of an email list, more of the surge. So
Yeah.
more ambassador letters,
Yep. Great.
right?
So assets are room on your calendar. I wrote down leads slash actual clients. We need 4 people in the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Those, yeah.
It's like a trick question almost,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you need in order to have 4 people in your program? Well, 4 people. Great, great. So helpful. I'm glad we're having this talk. And then I heard you say ambassadors. So for people listening who aren't in the hive, those are referral sources. Great. Okay. So basically what we're doing here, Jacque, is designing your schedule around the actions you need to take in order to acquire the assets you need to accomplish your goal. Do you see how we're just going to back right into that? Great. All right. So the goal is 4 writers. It sounds like you've got other client attraction goals, but for this conversation, we'll just focus in on the power group.
Okay.
3 assets, room on the calendar, people in the program, lead slash clients. I feel so funny to even say, and then referral sources.
Right.
All right. So let's identify. Do we want to do the action? Yeah. Let's create your action list first, and then we'll go back to the calendar and how we're going to schedule all that time. We're taking the long road to answer your question today. I hope that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. So room on your calendar. What specific actions need to happen in order to have that room on your calendar? And I'm being very literal here. Like one of them is block the time off.
Yeah.
That's the action. Are there any others?
Well, I need to block the actual, I need to decide on when and how long.
Yep.
And to meet first. That's got to be done before I can even block on my calendar.
Yep.
So I need to decide. I'm writing this down too.
Yeah, we're writing away here. So we've got deciding on the structure and the schedule of the program. And then blocking that time off.
Yes.
I don't know why this is coming up for me. Do you need to raise your prices for private clients?
I just sent out a letter.
Great.
And they'll be going up in January.
Okay, great. Yeah, where my head went was, okay, she's going to have less time. So that's usually an indicator that raising rates, right, so that you can serve fewer people more powerfully is on the agenda. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other actions related to the calendar piece?
I would like to, it's kind of part of blocking. We'll call it blocking A or whatever, but I would like to, it's an experiment, but I would like to see if I can do the back end of the client work and take an hour or so before each meeting to work on what, excuse me, on each member's work. So review what they have, things like that. So take an hour to go over all 4 clients within that time. Great. And so then
can I write that down as like accounting for session prep time? Is that like preparing for the meetings or meeting prep? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. I love that idea. So really, I've got this small group and I have time on my schedule to do all of the writing and the feedback and the reading for my clients right before we move into the session. So the rest of the week, I don't have to, it's not going to require more emotional or mental bandwidth because that time has been blocked off on my calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love it. That's great.
That's the plan. Hopefully it works.
Yeah. Best laid plans, right? It's a great theory.
Yes. Yes.
But what you'll want to pay attention to is what's your energy level at the end of the meeting? Because if you feel depleted, it's probably a sign that perhaps it's the day before that you have that hour of time blocked off instead of right before the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so there might be more actions under the calendar piece, but I think that's a good place to leave it for now. So the next asset here was referral sources, ambassadors. So what actions need to happen in order for you to acquire more referral sources or ambassadors?
Well, I need to put out my letters.
Yep. Okay.
I've got them written. You helped me with a little bit of the copy. Some of the Hive members were of great help, like saw some things that it was like just duh things, but that's why you have other people
Yeah.
to help you out with, right?
That's also why you're in business. Just
Yes,
like for the
exactly.
record, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I have no qualms about asking
Yeah.
people to look at my stuff and point out the obvious.
Yep, it's so good. So good. Okay, so an action is to send your referral requests.
Yes.
And then is it fair, just for the purpose of our exercise today, could we have the next action be like follow the client search process? There are a lot of steps in there, but for our conversation today, will that work for you? Is that clear enough, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's clear enough for me. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so client search process, great. And then are there any additional actions that need to occur to acquire that third asset, which was actual students or members in your group? Or are those the same actions as the referrals?
I think I would like some practice. Actually, I don't know if you'd call that an action, but I think I'd like some practice with discovery sessions um and addressing objections.
Totally. Yep. It's the best thing you can do. I think that's the thing. Pro tip for all of our Hive members listening. The more you practice discovery sessions, the more thrill client search can become. Otherwise, it can be kind of painful because you're practicing in real time when the stakes are really high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay.
I think those will help to get over awkwardness, because it's already awkward to do a discovery session if you've never done it, but then to like pretend to do one as adults, like we don't pretend.
I'm nodding my head.
Yes.
I'm nodding my head almost violently, right?
Yeah.
So I actually think the practice discovery sessions are harder than the real ones.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah. So it'll be like you do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
So then the not as hard stuff feels even less not hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for not lying to us and saying easy. So I love that.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to just create some context for you and everyone listening. What we're doing here, Jacque has limited time, but maybe even especially if you feel you have all the time in the world, and so now you're just looking at a blank calendar and looking at a blank screen every day, wondering what to do. This process, I call it schedule domination. And essentially what we do is, Jacque, we're just backing into your calendar we're looking very big, right? Goals. What do I need and to acquire? And then what do I need to do in order to acquire those assets to reach the goals? So now that we've got those 3 lists in place, now we get to go to your calendar.
Okay.
So, it may even be helpful for you to look at your calendar while we're doing this. And you may not feel the need to. Whatever works for you is great. So looking at your calendar, the first thing what we want to do is categorize our actions by themes. So you will probably have a theme of family time, right? Probably have a marketing theme. But instead of that, let's call that theme your Q1 goal.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's client time. And probably admin, is that the word you would use?
Yeah, if you're talking about, writing emails and things, then I
Yeah.
would call that admin.
Okay.
Um,
Great.
yeah, which would be different than the session prep.
Okay. So then you have another one. So there's client time and then there's session prep time. Those are two different categories.
Okay.
Great. I love that idea. Okay. So we have family time, client time, session prep, admin, and then this category of Q1 goal.
I like having, like right now I have like a marketing box or whatever, but I'm
Mhm.
really liking like giving it a name because marketing is, emails, and it's so
Mhm.
easy to lose your focus.
Yeah.
Um, so actually like giving it a name,
Yeah.
I
Something more
think is,
specific. Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, you could spend an hour just scrolling through Instagram because you're marketing.
Right.
Okay. So basically, it sounds like, Jackie, that you're pretty clear on when your family, like when you're off the business clock.
For the most part.
Tell me more.
Um, right now, the weather is absolutely beautiful during the day and in the early evening. And so sometimes it feels like I really should take my son for a bike ride because it's going to be cold later. And so that's when I start to like kind of panic
Uh-huh.
in what is important. Am I spending my time the right way?
Mm.
Um, that balances both my family time and the growth of my business.
Yeah.
Um, there are absolutely some times where I will not work, and there are absolutely times that I will. Um, but it's those kind of gray areas
Hmm.
that I do struggle with a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think we ever, I'll speak for myself. As a mom, I never feel like I'm nailing it.
Okay.
Right.
Do we ever nail anything as moms?
I know, right? So like I definitely strive and I have boundaries and there's places where it's squishy, but there's an exception to almost every rule. But the purpose of our conversation today for me is to create enough of a framework where you feel empowered about the decisions around your time instead of unaware of the decisions you're
Mm,
making or guilty about the decisions that you're making.
that's perfect.
Okay. So I'll tell you what doesn't work well for me.
Mhm.
As soon as I leave the work day and go and spend some time with my daughter, I can't really get back to work. I'm done.
Yeah,
Is that the same for you?
I would say so.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like you turning off work. You turn off your computer, and
Mhm.
then the rest, it's done. That's the end of the day. Yeah, I definitely feel that same way.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's like, okay, well, we went and we did our fun stuff. Now, why would I want to go
right.
back and do hard stuff? Or then it's like, well, dinner starting, and
Bedtime and all of
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that can work for me is if I'm thinking more slush fundy now because the weather's
Mhm.
really nice and wouldn't it be great to take advantage of that?
Right.
I
Right.
wonder if you could have for yourself a basic guideline, right? Which is I can choose to end the day early so that to take a bike ride with my son any day that it's sunny. And in service to that, I'm going to give myself an hour after his bedtime
Mhm.
to work on admin and so maybe that's what it is we design your
Mhm.
schedule where the the stuff that doesn't require other people, right,
Mhm.
add work on your own can be in the afternoons so that you can choose on certain days, right? All right, it's not always easy, but I'm going to choose the sunshine today, which means no Netflix after dinner.
Right.
Does
Right,
that work
right,
for you? Because
right.
that can work for me. If once she's in bed, I can get another
Yeah,
solid hour in of work without feeling fried, right?
yeah. I'm definitely willing to try that.
Okay.
I'm all for experimenting because you never know if I mean it could be the best thing ever.
Right. And it may not work, but let's try
Yeah,
it. Okay.
yeah.
So we've got our categories. The next step here is to designate blocks of time on your schedule for each of these categories.
Okay.
Okay. So what you'll do is, and you've already got it, right? Is you're going to block off client time. You'll block off. And so it's not, here's Barney's appointment. It's here's from 9 until noon on these 3 days I'm available to clients. And on this one day from 1 to 3 is my slush fund. So you don't have to get as granular as putting in client names, but it's these blocks of time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
So I recommend starting with those appointments that someone else is also going to be there because there's less flex, right?
Right. Okay.
Once that's done, then we've got this time for session prep and admin. Those two things might likely work best in the afternoon, so you can swap them out if it's super sunny and beautiful.
Yes. Okay.
And then we've got blocks of time toward Q1 goals.
Okay.
Now, I just want to talk through this a little bit, and then we'll address, we'll personalize it for you.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining a calendar where there are 3 days a week where you've got like 90 minutes blocked off for Q1 goals. It's Tuesday, you open up your laptop and you see, oh, right, my Q1 goals are this afternoon from 3 to 5. What am I going to do during that time? We just created your action list.
Mm-hmm.
So now this action list, you just work through it in chronological order, essentially. Right? So the first thing I need to do, I'm going to, let me spend some time structuring the program and the schedule so I'm really clear on what I'm offering when I go into client search. That gets ticked off the list. The next day, when you come to work in that Q1 goal time, we're sending 5 ambassador requests and reaching out to a Hive member to schedule a practice discovery session. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes
Great.
total sense.
Great. So it's unlike a lot of time blocking exercises where it's like, in this block of time, I'm always doing this same thing. Instead, it's in this block of time, I'm always working on the same theme. And depending on the season in my business, the actions inside of that theme might be different, but I've already created my action list.
I love that idea because I do tend to get bored doing the same things every day.
I know, that's so true.
Yeah, we need that. We need to do.
Yeah.
We need consistency, but at the same time, like it can get stale. So I like the idea of it being in themes rather than specific, like between 10 and 10:15, I'm DMing or I am, so now it feels like there's more flexibility,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And agency.
Yes. And yeah, because then you can decide and make it feel like you're making a decision instead of
Totally.
My calendar says I have to do this.
We're tricking ourselves into thinking we have a choice.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Here's what's coming up for me, because you just mentioned DMing. There are all of these things we could or should do for our businesses, but we're in seasons. And right now, you're entering into the 4 clients in my group program season of your business. So DMing may or may not be on your action list during this season?
I'm feeling like it's not, to be
Me too.
honest. Yeah.
Totally. And
Yeah.
so now we get to like feel good about ignoring that video in the module, right? I'm not behind
Mhm.
schedule. I'm not doing it wrong. When I look at my goal for this season, I've already crafted the actions. So I don't need to pile on more.
Right. Yeah, and it's like letting it go without the guilt
Yeah.
because I'm supposed to do it.
Yep.
Right.
Because then
Yeah.
we just end up sort of doing it.
Yeah. We don't go all in.
Huh.
We don't get deep enough. And I think that's been some of my problem in the past is I feel like I have to do something and then I just kind of do it surface level and then wonder why it doesn't work.
Right. And then there's not enough time to do, and we approach that with everything. So we're just sort of kind of doing everything and actually not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. So I went through that pretty quickly, but I want to let you and also our listeners know this is just a highlight of one of the bonuses inside of the Hive called Schedule Domination.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you've looked at that, but you can look, it's in the bonus module and you can refer back to that training if you need it to go deeper or review the process that we started today.
Yeah, I'll definitely review it. I had looked at it before, but talking through it with you kind of opens it up to a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
And being specific, saying Q1 goals instead of marketing.
Yeah. It really changes the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, if you aren't a Hive member, you can grab Schedule Domination at scheduledomination.com. And we'll put a note in the show notes as well. But Jackie, I just want to check in with you. So we talked about you've got priorities outside of your business. You also want to make sure that the limited time you spend on the business is not busy work, rather actions that are going to move the needle.
Yes.
So then we've got goals, assets, actions. We briefly cruise through the idea of scheduling blocks of time by theme on your calendar and then letting your action list dictate the specific steps you'll take during that blocked off time. What, if any, questions do you have for me so that you can really run with this process when our conversation is over today?
Well, sometimes there is confusion as to what actions should come first. To me, this is like pretty straightforward for this specific goal. I am thinking of another goal that I have that requires list building. And so then I look at these lists of actions that I kind of have loose in my head. And it can kind of get fuzzy as to how do you weigh when you're not sure what action is more important?
Great. Such a good question. Okay, so there's like a two-tiered, I got to answer this question in two phases. So the first phase isn't exactly answering your question, but I think it gives context. The first phase is, all right, if my goal is list building, there are definitely things that have to be in place before I can start to list build. One is I need a lead magnet, right? I have to have all of the back end or the tech set up before people can opt into my list. So there are certain actions that have to come first, right?
Mhm.
And those get revealed pretty easily by looking at the assets, like asking yourself the assets question
Mhm.
and then identifying actions to bring you those assets. So I need to build my list. What's an asset that I need? Well, I need a lead magnet. I don't have one yet. Let me log into that training and get a lead magnet going. So that's the first phase, but I don't think that's really what you're asking. What I think you're asking here is now that all of that is in place and I have options for list building strategies, how do I know I'm picking the right one? Is that your question?
That definitely falls into it. Yes.
Okay. What am I
Yes.
missing? Clarify for me.
Well, I guess mine was a little bit broader.
Uh-huh.
Um, uh, for example, like if we're talking about building, what's more important? What do I do first? I already have a email service provider, but I want a different one. So does that come first? I want one that's a little easier to deal with. So does that come first,
Yeah.
or does actually building the list come first?
Yeah.
Or um, or do I get people on my list while I'm working on an email sequence? Or do I create the entire sequence first
Yes.
and then get people on my list?
Yeah.
So the strategy also falls into that kind of question, which I definitely would struggle with because I don't want to be doing 5 different strategies
Mm-hmm.
with the time that I have. I want to focus on one and then grow later.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. I love that you're asking this question, and you're almost asking the wrong person because I'm a little dangerous in this area. I'm a little too much of like, I don't know, just pick one and do
Just
it.
pick
It'll
one.
be fine, right? Which is it's not helpful. That's not how everyone operates. So
Okay.
my coachy answer for you is we have to understand ourselves, right? And make decisions that are going to set us up to be consistent
Mhm.
more than just being efficient. Okay. So when
Okay.
I understand myself, I am very quick start. If we look at human design, I'm a manifesting generator. The way I operate is figuring it out on the go. That's actually like how I'm built.
Okay.
So understanding the thing that's going to help me be most consistent is actually being messy and just like doing the
Just
things,
doing it.
right? Now, not everyone is like that. So when we understand how we work, we have Julie on my team who is very methodical. I wouldn't call her risk averse, but she values preparedness. She's very systematic. And I'm guessing that for her, if we're using consistency as the goal, she would want to be in the right email service provider.
I'm a lot more like Julie.
Yeah, I have a feeling. I didn't want to put that on you, but yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
She would want to, and maybe not 100% clear, but
Yeah.
like 80,
Mhm.
85% clear. And even if it looks slower or perhaps looks like resistance, that's the path that's going to help you be consistent. And consistent is the path to sustainable success.
Gotcha.
So even if it looks slower, I want you sticking with it for the long term. So I'm going to say that all in a different way for our listeners. How do we know what comes first is really the question here. And I think the way we answer that is out of my options, which is the thing that's going to help me stick with this plan for the long term? What's going to help me be most consistent? Is that helpful, Jackie?
Yeah, it really is. Because yeah, I am a lot more like Julie. So it takes me a while to, like you said, be 80% sure this is what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is, you know, I'm not a perfectionist, but
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm going into the right email service provider before I just pick one.
Yeah.
Am I creating the right welcomes email? Am I, to
Mhm.
where I can be 75 to 80% sure that
Mhm.
the direction I'm going is the right one.
Yeah, I really hear you. And this does not sound like perfectionism to me. It sounds like you understand yourself, where I'm someone who loves chaos. Is that the word? Like I'm actually comfortable fixing things down the road, much
Mhm.
more comfortable with that than getting it all set up in the beginning,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to be more consistent, being a little messier. Or
Right.
what I'm hearing you say is it's not about, okay, it has to be perfect or it has to be right. It's like, I need to feel good about it.
Mhm.
And I want to just encourage you to lean into that because
Okay.
the game we're playing here is consistency.
Okay.
And then also for me and for you and everyone listening, we have to just have that understanding of what does my resistance look like when it shows up? Because my resistance can look like this natural tendency amplified to the point of being dangerous, right? And
Yeah.
yours might be this natural tendency amplified to the point of hiding.
Yes.
So just having that
Yes.
awareness, right, and course correcting as we need to is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's a little bit different lens than what the needing to see, well, what comes first.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of who I am to do it rather than the task.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because all of those things have to get done at some point.
Right.
So like what comes first, who knows? Like they all matter. So let me pick the thing that helps me be my best self.
Yeah.
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 Great. I love that you asked that question. So what I'm envisioning for you is as you move into every quarter, right? You can apply this process and then give yourself permission to only focus on the actions that are most directly aligned with that quarter's goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really like, I can see, I can, like, for the retreat, obviously we did the, kind of our big events,
Mm-hmm.
loosely scheduled them. But I can actually see them being more solid and not as scary.
Right.
Right. Because I was in pure panic mode on Friday.
You're welcome. Wasn't that a
Yes,
fun
thanks.
retreat?
Yes, oh, it was
Call
so
it a
much fun.
retreat.
um, it stems from in the past that I've done things and I've gone in and then it falls apart because I don't have a plan. And but this feels like it feels good. It feels solid. It feels like I'm in the car going the right direction. I've got my map. And if
Mhm.
I need to take a detour or if I want to stop at the national park
Mhm.
for a day, I can,
Yep.
and not feel like I'm off course.
Yes. Something just occurred to me, and I want to see how it lands for you. We
Mhm.
talk so much in the hive about habits and
Mhm.
routines, right?
Mhm.
And one could hear this conversation and think, wait, like, what do you mean change your actions every quarter? How is that? I thought what we were doing was habits, but
Right.
this process is the habit.
Yes. Yes. And I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a habit, but it's like you're not, it's not in concrete.
Hmm.
Like it's more like, I don't know, it's flowing,
Yeah. Or it's
you
like
know.
clay, right? You can sculpt
Yes.
it. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right. So I want to check in. Um, how are you feeling? Is my first question.
I feel really good. I feel a little more grounded. I feel like I'm headed in the right direction.
Great.
Um, and I also feel like if we go back to habits, just to create the habit of just before every quarter,
Mhm.
sitting down and doing this, it feels really good. It feels solid.
Great. I love hearing that. So, lastly, I want to make sure this is truly actionable for you. So, as we wrap up, could you share with us what is the plan, right? Or what's the next step, either one, for you around this conversation?
Um, so I'm actually going to probably revisit schedule domination and kind of look over our notes for today, and start on that. And see, this is where I'm like, well, what do I do first? Do I do schedule domination first, or do I try and figure out a structure for my group?
I'd love to offer. It may, given that whole conversation we just had around you want to feel clear and confident, like 5%, right? You may actually benefit more from reviewing schedule domination when you're clear on the structure of the group.
That was like, that was coming to me as I was kind of talking it out, I think, I think that's what I'll have to do first.
Yeah.
Want to do, I don't have to do
Great.
Yeah, I think I really want to get clear, and that might take a few days, excuse me, to a couple weeks, because I am the sit and mull things over. So definitely, that feels really good, is figuring out a structure for my group.
Yeah.
And then visiting schedule domination, and even if I don't get it scheduled for Q1, like maybe start putting it into my calendar, like a placeholder.
Yep. I love it.
Right.
Yep. And until the group exists, that becomes really valuable marketing time.
Yeah.
Or Q1 goals time, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. Q1 goals time.
Good. Oh, I really got so much out of this conversation today. I'm so glad that you came on the show, and I'm excited to see how this approach to habits helps you feel like you're optimizing your time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to implement it.
Great. Thank you, Jacque.
Thank you, Dallas. I appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. And I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope you take one key piece from the conversation today and apply it directly to your own business. So I'll see you all back here next week. Thanks so much for joining us.